Hey everyone. Tonight, we're stepping far back in time into a world of stone streets, flickering oil lamps, and distant echoes of empire. Picture the eternal city under a canopy of stars, where the Tiber River whispers softly and the seven hills stand silent sentinel. We're going to explore something deeply human, something every Roman, from mighty emperors like Augustus to humble enslaved workers toiling in the fields, experienced every single night. Sleep. Before you settle in, go ahead and get comfortable. Lower the lights. Maybe let a soft background sound play. Crackling fire, gentle rain, or quiet night air. If you enjoy slow, relaxing journeys through the past like this, consider subscribing and feel free to leave a comment telling me where you're listening from tonight. Now, let's drift together into the ancient world. Long before alarm clocks, electric lighting, or even glass windows, the people of ancient Rome followed the rhythms of the sun, the seasons, and the city itself. Their days began with the first light of dawn, when the morning air was crisp and believed to be the healthiest for the body and mind. As the sun climbed higher, the bustling forums filled with merchants, senators, and citizens going about their trades. But as twilight descended, casting long shadows over the marble temples and cobblestone paths, the world shifted. Their nights were darker, quieter in some pockets, yet far more restless than ours in others. To understand Roman sleep, we need to imagine a city that never truly slept, but also never truly rested. Rome, the heart of an empire spanning from Britannia to Egypt, was a living organism, pulsing even in the dark hours. Even after sunset, carts rattled across stone roads, hauling goods that were forbidden during the day to avoid traffic chaos. Taverns spilled drunken laughter into narrow alleyways where revelers lingered over wine and dice games. Dogs barked in the distance, echoing off the high walls of insulae, the multi-story apartment blocks that housed the masses. Night watchmen, known as vigiles, patrolled the streets, calling out the hours with rhythmic shouts to mark the passage of time. Fires crackled in hearths, and the occasional cry of a child or argument from a neighbor pierced the veil of quiet. Yet somehow, in the midst of all this symphony of urban life, Romans learned to sleep. It wasn't the deep, unbroken slumber we chase today with apps and white noise machines. No, their rest was woven into the fabric of their existence, adapting to the chaos around them. Unlike our modern expectation of 8 uninterrupted hours, Roman sleep was often short, segmented, and flexible, much like the biphasic pattern seen in many pre-industrial societies. Historians and ancient texts suggest that waking in the middle of the night was not a curse, but a norm, a natural break in the night's rhythm. Most Romans went to bed shortly after sunset, not because they were exhausted from a long day, but because darkness enveloped the city, limiting what could be done. Oil lamps, fueled by olive oil or animal fat, were expensive, smoky, and provided only a dim, flickering glow that strained the eyes and filled rooms with haze. Reading or working by lamplight was reserved for the elite or scholars, but even they believed it weakened the body over time, draining vitality and inviting illness. Sleep came early, often around the 9th hour after dawn, what we might call 8 or 9 p.m. in summer, earlier in winter when days shortened. But it didn't always last through the night. Romans frequently woke during the dark hours, sometimes more than once. This midnight awakening, far from causing alarm, was embraced as a time for quiet reflection or practical tasks. They might rise to drink cool water from a clay jug, use a chamber pot tucked under the bed, or offer a silent prayer to their household gods, the Lares and Penates, whose small shrines flickered with tiny lamps in the atrium. Some would lie awake, listening to the city breathe around them, the distant rumble of the aqueducts carrying water, the hoot of an owl, or the soft snores of family members sharing the space. This segmented sleep allowed for a second sleep after the wakeful interlude, refreshing them until dawn. This was normal. There was no panic about waking in the night, no frantic counting of lost hours or obsession with sleep efficiency as we know it today. The night was simply another phase of life, a bridge between days, where the mind could wander and the body recharge in its own time. Ancient physicians like Galen noted that such patterns aligned with the body's humors, blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, believing balance came from listening to nature's cues rather than forcing rigid schedules. Roman homes played a huge role in how people slept, shaping not just the physical environment, but the very quality of rest. For the wealthy patricians living in grand domus, sprawling urban villas, the house was built around an open courtyard called the atrium, a central space where rainwater collected in a shallow pool and light filtered in during the day. Bedrooms, known as cubicula, opened off the sides of this atrium, or quieter peristyles, garden courtyards ringed by columns. These cubicula were small and intimate, often no wider than 6 feet and roughly square in shape, designed primarily for sleeping rather than lounging or entertaining. Windows were tiny slits high on the walls or non-existent, meant to keep out the scorching summer heat and retain precious warmth in winter's chill. Fresh air wasn't always plentiful. Many Romans believed cold drafts carried malevolent spirits or caused rheumatism and fevers. Instead, ventilation came from the open atrium, but in crowded urban settings, this could mean inhaling the smells of cooking fires, street waste, or nearby tanneries. Bedrooms were sparse, almost ascetic in their simplicity, reflecting Roman values of discipline and restraint. A single bed dominated the room, perhaps accompanied by a small wooden chest for storing tunics or personal items, and a simple oil lamp on a stand. Nothing more cluttered the space, no lavish decorations or unnecessary comforts, as excess was seen as a path to moral weakness. In rural villas, away from the city's din, bedrooms might overlook olive groves or vineyards, offering a touch more serenity, but the design remained functional. For the plebeians and poorer classes, home was often an insula, towering apartment blocks up to 7 stories high, where cubicula were even tinier, shared among families, and lacked the luxury of courtyards. These rooms were multifunctional, sleeping quarters at night, living spaces daytime, with thin wooden partitions offering scant privacy. Beds themselves were very different from what we imagine today, far from the plush orthopedic wonders of modern times. A Roman bed frame, or lectus, was usually crafted from sturdy wood like oak, maple, or cedar, or for the affluent, ornate bronze inlaid with ivory or tortoiseshell. Across the frame stretched woven leather, straps, ropes of hemp, or interlaced cords, creating a taut surface that sagged slightly under weight. On top rested a thin mattress, a cloth sack stuffed with whatever was affordable, coarse straw or hay for the poor, soft wool for the middle class, or luxurious feathers from geese or ducks for the elite. Some even used dried leaves or reeds from the marshes, which rustled softly with every movement. Comfort depended entirely on wealth and status. The impoverished slept on rough pallets or simple straw mats laid directly on the packed earth or tiled floor, their bodies aching from the hardness but accustomed to it for necessity. Enslaved people who formed the backbone of Roman society often didn't have a dedicated bed at all. They slept wherever space allowed, in kitchens amid the dying embers of cooking fires, hallways drafty with night winds, or cramped alcoves near their masters' chambers, ready to be summoned at a whim. Sharing beds was common across all classes, families huddled together for warmth, siblings side by side, and couples entwined under shared blankets. Privacy, as we cherish it today, was a rare luxury reserved for the highest echelons, where separate cubicula for husbands and wives was possible but not always practiced. In brothels or military barracks, beds might be even more rudimentary, stone or cement bunks with minimal padding, emphasizing utility over ease. Roman pillows were small and firm, often no larger than a modern throw cushion, stuffed with feathers, wool, or even aromatic herbs like lavender to ward off insects. Soft, enveloping pillows were viewed with suspicion. Too much comfort was thought to weaken the body and spirit, fostering laziness and indulgence. Even the elite, like the philosopher Seneca, warned against excessive luxury, arguing it led to moral decay and softened the Roman resolve that built an empire. To sleep too well, cocooned in softness, was in many ways un-Roman, a betrayal of the Stoic virtues praised by figures like Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations. Pillows were practical, supporting the head just enough to align the neck, but never pampering. Nightwear was simple and practical, reflecting the Romans' pragmatic approach to daily life. Most slept either naked, allowing the skin to breathe in the humid Mediterranean climate, or in a light tunic made of linen or wool, loose and unrestrictive. Heavy clothing was avoided, as it was believed to interfere with digestion and circulation, trapping heat and causing discomfort. In warmer months, nudity was common even among the upper classes, promoting freedom of movement and a sense of natural repose. Blankets were crafted from coarse wool, often itchy against the skin, but effective at trapping body heat. In the bitter winters of northern provinces or high-altitude villas, Romans might sleep wearing woolen socks or wrap themselves in heavy cloaks, layering furs from bears or wolves for extra insulation. Heating a bedroom overnight was rare and perilous. Braziers of charcoal could fill rooms with deadly fumes, and open fires risked sparking conflagrations in wooden structures. Many preferred to endure the cold, bundling up and relying on body warmth rather than court disaster. Stories abound of entire insulae burning to the ground from a single unattended lamp. Romans also believed deeply in the connection between sleep and digestion, viewing the body as a holistic system governed by balance. Eating too late in the evening was thought to cause nightmares, indigestion, and restless tossing, as undigested food fermented in the stomach and stirred turbulent humors. Physicians like Celsus and Galen advised light suppers, perhaps bread, olives, cheese, and fruits, consumed well before sunset, allowing time for the body to process before repose. Wine was a staple at meals, but moderation was key. A small amount diluted with water was believed to calm the nerves, soothe the mind, and invite gentle sleep. Too much, however, led to disturbed dreams, headaches, and grogginess upon waking, impairing the clarity needed for the day's labors. Herbal infusions, such as those made from chamomile or valerian root, known since Greek times and adopted by Romans, were sipped as evening tonics to promote relaxation. Even lettuce, with its milky sap, was recommended by doctors as a natural sedative. Emperor Augustus himself credited lettuce with curing his insomnia during stressful campaigns. Balance was everything in Roman life, from politics to personal health, and sleep was no exception. Dreams held powerful meaning in Roman culture, far beyond mere subconscious wanderings. They were not dismissed as fleeting imagination, but revered as messages, divine warnings from the gods, prophetic glimpses of the future, or omens of bodily imbalance. The god Somnus, Roman counterpart to Greek Hypnos, ruled over sleep from his shadowy cave, sending his sons Morpheus, shaper of dreams, and Phobator, bringer of nightmares, to mortals. Temples dedicated to Asclepius, god of healing, often included incubation chambers where the sick slept, hoping for curative dreams. Dream interpretation manuals, like Artemidorus's Onerocritica from the 2nd century AD, circulated widely, decoding symbols with meticulous detail. Dreaming of flying might signal lofty ambitions or impending danger from hubris. Losing teeth in a dream suggested illness, financial loss, or the death of a loved one. Encountering the dead could indicate unresolved guilt, unfinished business, or a call to honor ancestors with offerings. Superstitions intertwined with these beliefs. Romans feared night spirits like the Strickays, witch-like owls that stole children's breath, or lemures, restless ghosts wandering on certain nights. To ward off bad dreams, many slept with protective amulets under their pillows, small figurines of gods, engraved stones with incantations, or pouches of herbs like rue to promote relaxation. Others prayed to Somnus before bed, offering libations of milk or honey for peaceful visions. Sleeping positions mattered too. Avoiding the back was advised, lest evil spirits press upon the chest, causing the terrifying sensation we now call sleep paralysis, a phenomenon dubbed incubus in Latin, meaning one who lies upon. If that sounds familiar, echoing through folklore to our own era, you're not alone. These ancient fears remind us how universal the mysteries of the night remain. But nights in Rome were not always safe, blending peril with the pursuit of rest. Crime surged after dark, thieves prowled the unlit streets, and gangs like the Suburani roamed the outskirts. Fires, sparked by upturned lamps or cooking hearths, spread rapidly through timber-framed buildings, prompting Emperor Augustus to establish the vigiles as a firefighting force. Superstition thrived in the shadows, with tales of wandering demons, vampires called Lamia, or the evil eye cursing the unwary. To protect themselves, many Romans performed small rituals before bed, sprinkling holy water around the room, reciting prayers to Jupiter or Juno, or placing iron charms near doorways to repel spirits. Some avoided mirrors at night, fearing they trapped souls, or hung bells to alert against intruders. Waking on the left side of the bed was deemed unlucky, a superstition that may have birthed our phrase, getting up on the wrong side. In this world of uncertainty, sleep was a vulnerable state, guarded by faith and habit. The city itself shaped sleep profoundly, creating a stark divide between urban and rural rhythms. In the crowded insulae of Rome, home to hundreds of thousands, thin walls of plaster and wood offered no soundproofing. Neighbors' arguments drifted through partitions, babies wailed in the night, and footsteps thudded on creaky floors above. Upper floors were cheaper, but more treacherous, with rickety stairs, risk of collapse, and greater exposure to fires. Emperors like Nero rebuilt the city after the Great Fire of 64 AD, mandating wider streets and brick construction, yet dangers persisted. Sleep here was light, restless, fragmented by the ceaseless hum of empire. Contrast this with life outside the city in the vast latifundia estates or rural villas dotting the Italian countryside. Here, sleep was quieter, more attuned to nature's cadence. Romans in these settings listened to the chirp of insects, the rustle of wind through olive trees, and the distant howls of wolves. Days were longer, filled with agricultural toil from dawn to dusk, so nights arrived with deeper exhaustion, allowing for more profound rest. Farmers and villa owners rose before dawn to harness the cool morning hours, sleeping earlier than their urban counterparts. Yet even here, class dictated rhythm. Wealthy landowners might host late-night symposia, philosophical discussions under starlight, while laborers retired with the sun. Seasonal festivals, like the Saturnalia in December, disrupted patterns with all-night revelry, blending sleep with celebration. Children's sleep was strictly regulated, instilled with the discipline that defined Roman upbringing. Parents believed good habits began at night, molding character from infancy. Children were put to bed early, often at sunset, and expected to rise with the household at cockcrow.
Bedtime stories were told, but always laced with moral lessons, tales of heroic ancestors, virtuous gods, or cautionary fables from Aesop adapted into Latin. Fear was sometimes wielded deliberately. Parents invoked bogeymen like the Mormo or Lamia to encourage obedience, ensuring quiet compliance. Infants slept in wooden cradles rocked by mothers or wet nurses, or shared parental beds for bonding and warmth. Soothing methods included gentle singing, swaddling in soft cloths, and charms hung above to protect from the evil eye. Medicine for colicky babies was herbal, fennel seeds, or diluted wine, while sleep was seen as sacred, essential for growth into strong citizens. Insomnia was common, even in ancient times, plaguing thinkers, leaders, and laborers alike. Roman physicians, drawing from Greek traditions, prescribed an array of remedies rooted in natural philosophy. Galen, the famed doctor to emperors, recommended warm baths infused with lavender or rose petals to relax the muscles, followed by gentle massages with olive oil to ease tension. Herbal drinks were staples, valerian root tea for its calming properties, known since Hippocratic times, poppy seed infusions, a mild form of opium for severe cases, though used cautiously due to addictive risks, or even lettuce juice, praised for its sedative latex that cooled the blood and quieted the mind.
Controlled breathing exercises, akin to early meditation, were advised to harmonize the spirit. Daytime exercise, walks in the forum, wrestling in the palaestra, or chariot rides, was encouraged to tire the body naturally. Mental strain was often blamed. Excessive reading by lamplight, heated political debates, or emotional turmoil from love or loss. Some treatments veered into the exotic, like wearing amulets of hyena skin or consuming snail slime, but most emphasized balance, avoiding heavy foods, moderating wine, and aligning with the stars' cycles. For the elite, opium-based mixtures provided relief, but physicians warned of overuse, noting it dulled the wits. Wine, ever the Roman panacea, remained the most accessible sleep aid, diluted and spiced with herbs. The wealthy sometimes hired enslaved attendants to stay awake through the night, maintaining low fires for subtle warmth, guarding valuables against thieves, or standing ready if their master stirred with a request for water or scroll. Imagine trying to sleep, knowing someone was quietly breathing nearby in the darkness, their presence a constant reminder of hierarchy. These noctivagi, or night watchers, ensured security, but eroded privacy, a concept barely existent in Roman society, where even emperors like Caligula kept bodyguards in their chambers. As the empire expanded across continents, sleep habits spread and shifted, adapting to new climates and cultures. Roman soldiers, the ironclad legions conquering distant lands, slept lightly, trained to wake instantly at the sound of a trumpet or sentry's call. In fortified camps, or castra, routines were strict, tents pitched in orderly rows, watches rotating every 3 hours through the night. Soldiers bunked on simple straw mats or cloaks rolled out on the ground, sharing space with comrades for camaraderie and warmth. Sleep was not indulgence, it was preparation, a brief respite before dawn drills or marches. Even in sieges, like Julius Caesar's campaigns in Gaul, rest was disciplined, with sentries punishing dozing with severe penalties. In provinces like Egypt or Britain, locals blended Roman patterns with their own, perhaps incorporating incense rituals or stargazing for omens, enriching the empire's nocturnal tapestry. As dawn approached, the city stirred gradually, like a giant awakening. Roosters crowed from farmyards on the outskirts, merchants dragged carts to the markets, and bakers lit ovens, filling the air with the scent of fresh bread. Romans rose early, often before the sun crested the horizon, believing the morning air invigorated the lungs and sharpened the intellect. Sleep ended quietly, without mechanical alarms, guided by the growing light filtering through shutters, the sounds of stirring households, and ingrained habit honed over generations. A quick ablution with cold water, a light breakfast of pulse or fruit, and a day resumed its cycle. And so, night after night, across centuries of triumph and turmoil, Romans slept. Not deeply, not always comfortably, but faithfully. In small cubicula, on firm beds, beneath flickering lamps and the watchful eyes of whispering gods. Their sleep was shaped by empire's grandeur, class divisions, deep-seated superstitions, and the unyielding stone of their world. Yet, in many ways, it wasn't so different from ours. The same quest for peace amid chaos, the same vulnerabilities in the dark. If you find yourself waking in the night, staring at shadows on the ceiling, if sleep feels light or broken, elusive as a dream, you're sharing an experience older than civilization itself, one that bound emperors and slaves in quiet solidarity. So, tonight, as you drift off, imagine a quiet Roman street beneath a starlit sky. Oil lamps glowing softly in windows, footsteps fading into silence, the distant murmur of the forum settling. And allow yourself to rest, just as countless lives once did long ago in the cradle of history. Good night.